Voters a provocatively named Take Back Control bill if Labour wins the election.
Can feel the public looking at us again, and we won't let up. We'll work every day to earn their trust, show them a new way of governing, and lead them to the fairer, greener, more dynamic Britain where aspiration is rewarded, working people succeed, communities control their own destiny, and where politics doesn't hide from the big challenges that face our children.
Shall we have a whip round and buy him a jacket? What do you think? Dan at gbnews.uk. Has Keir Starmer, has he banished Labour from the ghost of Jeremy Corbyn? Are Labour really ready to govern? Let me know your thoughts. Dan at gbnews.uk. Tweet us at gbnews and vote in the Twitter poll. I'll get you the results of that shortly. Is Britain ready for a Labour government? But first, I'm joined by political heavyweight, the associate editor of the Daily Mirror, Kevin Maguire, and former Conservative cabinet minister, broadcaster, best-selling author, Edwina Currie. Let me start with you, Kevin. Welcome to the show. Are Labour ready to govern?
I think they're preparing, Mark, and getting ready, yes. And I think the fact he used that take back control slogan, he's trying to make his peace with Brexiteers, saying, look, I accept Brexit is happened, I'm not going to reverse it. That shows he is hungry for power. And he will have to, yes, sketch out more policies. He will have to seal the deal because the election's unlikely until the end of next year. But I think he is on the road to Downing Street. So Britain, I think, is ready for change. Had 13 years of the Conservatives on a third Prime Minister we saw last year, made a hell of a hash of it. And I think people just feel, right, it is time for change.
However, Kevin, if we look at the industrial action that's happening at the moment, could a Labour government be firm with the unions, given the fact that the unions bankroll the Labour Party?
Most of the unions involved in this industrial action, the RMT on rail, the Royal College of Nursing, Health, they're not affiliated to the Labour Party. They don't give money to the Labour Party. I remember the last Labour government, Tony Blair, around 2004, 2005, having a big confrontation with the firefighters. Resulted in the firefighters leaving the Labour Party, the Fire Brigades Union. Green Goddesses were on the streets and so on. So he can be pretty tough. But in some ways, these disputes are symptoms of a deeper problem. That is the biggest collapse in living standards for a century. And the government holding down pay, I think, too tightly. And when it negotiates really badly. I've covered industrial relations for 30-odd years, and I've never seen a government so incompetent on the way it handles trade unions and groups of workers. And given the Conservatives, Edwina's party has ruled most of the last 3 centuries, and it's done so partly by dividing and ruling, I'm amazed they haven't divided the unions in doing a more generous deal with nurses and ambulance workers as it fights on other fronts. So, yeah, Labour can be tough with trade unions, and strikes would not go away if Labour was in power. And I think it's quite right, Mark, to keep asking the question, what would Labour do in negotiations? I think, and on public sector pay, I think that is absolutely right. But I do think they are ready for power now, and I think Britain wants to change. That's it. They're sick of the Conservatives.
Edwina Currie, from your own political CV, you know what a party looks like when it's ready for government. Is Labour?
Nowhere near. What Kevin says is right, though. I think the campaign for the next general election has started in the last few days. And it's clear where various protagonists are trying to draw at the battle lines. The battle line that says, strikes are not a good thing, and that government should not give in to strike action, because if you do, you just get more strikes. And they should certainly not give in to inflationary pay demands like 19%, because if you do, you just get more of those inflationary pay rises. You build inflation into the system. You make life much worse, especially for the low paid. Those are lessons that Conservatives learned a long, long time ago, because they happened under the Labour governments, particularly of Harold Wilson and of James Callaghan. I think Kevin and I are both just about old enough to remember what it was like living through all of that. And inflation at not 9, 10, 11%, and it's coming down right now, but inflation at, 16, 17%? I remember our mortgage at just touching 18%. It was a horrible time, absolutely horrible time. And that's why people voted for Margaret Thatcher and her efforts, that she made quite clear that she was going to tackle the unions. And hey presto, today, we have not only Keir Starmer making a speech, but we have the government making it quite clear that they're going to tackle the unions by ensuring that essential services have to be maintained. That basically means that the strikes are not going to be effective and they will peter out.
But Edwina, why is it that you say Labour are not ready to govern? Many of my viewers will think that the Tories have made a Horlicks of being in power, especially in recent years.
Well, I'd say recent months. I think the autumn was a time that most loyal Tories would rather forget. If you're voting for change, you've had quite a lot of it in recent weeks. And one of the lovely things that's been happening with Rishi Sunak is that everything has calmed down. We've very nearly got boring government. Thank heaven for that.
I agree, but why aren't Labour ready?
The markets are much happier. Interest rates are stabilising. It looks like inflation is coming down. Price of gas is certainly coming down. We look forward to a much calmer period when
Edwina,
folks don't get rocked.
I hear what you're saying, but you're being that rather sophisticated and artful politician again. It's old habits die hard. Why are Labour not ready to govern?
Well, apart from anything else, because we have a perfectly competent bunch of people in charge right now, and their competence will be shown over the next almost 2 years. The promises that have been made will be kept, and I've no doubt that that's exactly what the Prime Minister intends to go to the country with in due course. Now, what Labour are doing, are they having a look at what is popular in focus groups? Focus groups are telling them that Brexit actually matters still to very large numbers of people, that levelling up matters still, or at least that phrase. One of the things the Prime Minister was careful to say in his statement earlier in the week was that we want growth through the whole economy, not just in parts of it. And I'm very taken with that distinction. I mean, I live here in the north of England, and we'd very much like as much money sloshed around here as possible.
Absolutely.
But I can see the value of being aware that there are other parts of the country that then feel that they're being a bit deprived or having the money taken from them.
OK, and I think Edwina makes a great point, doesn't she, Kevin, that Rishi Sunak has taken the wind out of Keir Starmer's sails in the last 24 hours. His 5-point plan, he's going to halve inflation, he's going to stop the boats, and he's going to boost the economy. What's not to like?
Yeah, Mark, and you know as well as I know that your viewers and the British public don't believe he's going to stop the boats. There's no easy way to stop the boats. Yeah, inflation is going to fall. All the forecasts are it'll be more than half next year. Economic growth will return in 2024, but we're going to have a long recession. People will suffer in the meantime. Hospital waiting lists probably will begin falling in 2024, but they are at a record 7.2 million. And this idea that we somehow have confidence now is just not true. Look what's happening at the NHS. Look what's happening in the economy. Look what's happening to people's living standards. Look what he's going to do on tax, increasing people's taxes just as they're getting hammered and squeezed, making it worse. And then look at those strikes. There is no confidence at the moment. And the rot set in well before Rishi Sunak, who was rejected by the Tory party members, picked Liz Truss. She exploded. It set in certainly a year, 2 years with Boris Johnson.
OK.
So it's always, are Labour ready to govern? Well, the Tories aren't governing, are they? They're just not competent.
Oh, yes, we are.
Fascinating debate. Look at that. It's turned into pantomime season early. My profound thanks to the associate editor of the Daily Mirror, the brilliant Kevin Maguire, and, of course, a politics legend, former Conservative Cabinet Minister Edwina Currie. I personally think that shares in Keir Starmer are a little too high and shares in Rishi Sunak are a little too low. But what do you think? Well, I've been asking you, are Labour ready to govern? Cheryl on Twitter, thank you for your tweet, Cheryl, and the kind words. Not a chance. Labour doesn't even know what they stand for themselves. Starmer's only real strength is that he's not Jeremy Corbyn. Not exactly a high bar. Harry on Twitter says, I wasn't a fan of Blair, but I can't remember 97 to 2009 being anywhere near as bad as things have been since 2010. Crippling austerity, a disastrous version of Brexit, an insanely panicked response to COVID, and now a crumbling NHS. 12 years of utter crap for the ordinary person. Not pulling his punches, Harry. That's not Harry Windsor, is it? It's not. Can you just check the location of that tweet? It's not from Montecito, California, I hope. Norman on Twitter says Labour are the same as the Tories, who are the same as the Lib Dems, all unfit to govern, all serving other interests not the people. Well, your verdict is in. Are Labour ready to govern? 15%, 15% say Labour are ready. 85% say no, no, no. Coming up.